Good morning and welcome to A Closer Look. I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today my guests are Thom Reed and Terry Snow.
Good to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Now, Thom, you are the founder of Miami Models.
In South Beach, yes.
At South Beach. You're a photographer and all this kind of thing.
And I own a modeling agency, yes.
But that's not necessarily why you're here today.
No.
Tell me, what brought you to our area?
Okay, good question. Well, being in the film business my entire life, I was pretty much, I guess, encouraged by my late father, Dr. Howard Reed, who was also a politician and an attorney, to stop focusing so much on everyone else and start focusing on something that took place with our family back in 1969. And it's a interesting piece. My family owned a diner called The Village on the Green in Sheffield, Massachusetts, which has been the subject of about 6 or 7 TV shows or documentaries, if you will. And it became historically famous in a lot of ways, or renowned, because there was a UFO incident back in the 60s that involved our diner, and because it was the only eatery, it had a rare dynamic of a lot of different people that would come in there and talk and that sort of thing. So when they saw these things in the sky, if you will, it became, there was a lot of a paper trail, police reports, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And there was radio archives. And so our restaurant ended up being mentioned, or the event, at the United Nations on October 2nd, 1992, the same day that we lost our late father, who was also a politician. So there was a lot of interest on what really happened, you know, the conspiracy thing, and there was a lot of talk about, you know, did he know something, was he, you know, that kind of thing. And so with that, the historians in Massachusetts looked into it, and they found, you know, the witnesses of that time period are now bankers and lawyers and doctors. And with that said, they actually voted on it in 2015 to see if it was historically significant enough to be deemed true history to Massachusetts. And it got inducted, and it was inducted by the state historians and Governor Charles D. Baker. So we actually have the very first UFO-related incident to ever be inducted into the U.S. as historically true. Now, I live in Tennessee now, and so the polygraph tests and one of the detectives and doctors and those kind of things that we were asked to meet with or talk to about this, because it was so long ago, was all done here. And so I ran into Terry on a film a while back, and there's a beautiful studio right here in town, and so that entire piece about our family is going to be shot right here in East Tennessee.
That is wild.
It
okay,
is.
So how old were you when this happened? Did you say where this happened? What state and what town?
Oh,
were you in?
Massachusetts, Sheffield, Massachusetts, and I was just almost 10 years old.
Almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
So around 1970 or so?
69.
69.
Summer of 69. Yeah.
It was Labor
1st.
Day. It was actually Labor Day,
yeah.
and that's why there were so many witnesses, because there were barbecues. And so many people saw this as groups of people. There was 250 witnesses. It was just on Ancient Aliens.
Well, what exactly happened?
Well, I was riding in a horse show. I used to ride as a child.
Okay, so like equestrian kind of thing? Or?
Just, you know, a little race, horse race, you know,
Okay.
kid stuff, jumping, whatever. And we had left Ski Butternut, which is also pretty well renowned. And we were going back to our diner, Village on the Green, and we decided to take a shortcut after making the night deposit drop and cleaning the place up, because we left it open later because it was a holiday. And we went through this bridge that we very seldom ever went through. It was a shortcut, if you will. And it was getting late, and we had to go to bed, you know. And as we came through the bridge, we saw what looked like my grandmother actually was with us. My grandmother, my mother, and my brother. And we actually saw lights come in that, I guess through the boards or whatever. My grandmother thought that the headlights of the car just didn't seem to make sense with the amount of light in the bridge. And it went across a field, and we went down the road, and there was a line of trees between us. And my mother pulled the car off to the side of the road near a telephone pole, and we all just kind of looked at it, and this thing kind of faded out, and then we saw what looked like a giant turtle shell. My mother, I'll never forget it, put on the radio, because everyone was telling her, look, what you saw last night's on the radio, you know. And so all these people were calling in, and those eating in our diner were like, that's my cousin, that's my relative. You know, all these people were on the radio through this, WSBS radio actually aired it. And so the whole community was aware of it. And there were arguments on the bus and in school, and kids were all drawing what they saw. And so it just became such a, you know, it was seen by 250 people in 5 different towns, and you could actually follow its path from Pittsfield down to Housatonic River. And so with that said, later on in life, my father suggested I, you know, do something with it, and maybe write about it or preserve it for what it was, because it was getting turned into a circus. And it is getting turned into a circus. And so Terry and I want to set it straight as to what was really seen and how this actually got inducted into state. Our diner altered the community.
And why was it your diner?
It was the only eatery, and it's where everybody ate and heard.
So that's where everybody was hanging out and talking about what they saw.
It was the hub. It was the hub. And
hub.
because our families saw it and had the restaurant, just like when you go to get your hair done, someone, you know, they know more about you than most people because you're talking. Well, our diner became like that, and there were people that would come in our diner smelling like horse manure because there was farmland, right? And it would clear the place out. And then you had a lot of New Yorkers coming in because it was a horse racing track there also. And so you had these people that were getting into push and shove situations because these locals were being kind of belligerent about the whole subject. So it created police reports. And one of the chief of police, his son actually went on record, who's now very well off, Galata, and had written letters to the Historical Society. WSBS, who broadcast their incident back in 1969, their letter actually hangs in the Roswell Museum. And they've also been on several shows with us as well, because I think everybody involved in this thing is so ready to tell it honestly and truthfully, because everybody's reputation's on the line. You know, just because you see something that other people may not understand or be willing to accept doesn't mean it didn't happen. You know, we've got a lot of history that we're not proud of, but it's history. You know, I'll go on record, but you know, for God's sakes, you know, let's not, you know, our family's reputation is also, you know, on the line here.
So where does Terry come into this story?
Well, I was filming a short film here in East Tennessee, and one of the actresses was like, "Do you know Thom Reed? You know, he worked, you know, because Thom, you know, he became a successful photographer. He was working with CSI and Transporter 2 and all that stuff. He's like, do you know this guy? He lives in town. You're doing your short film. Get him to make a cameo or something." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. This guy's worked on a bunch of big stuff. He's a famous photographer." And so we brought him in, and then that's when he unleashed this story on me, and I was like, just taken aback. I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Inducted into history, true and historically significant. I need to know more. And then after that, we've just been getting together, and I was like, well,
let's do it.
Yeah, he was worried, you know, like he said, he's worried about people's reputation. The Historical Society and the governor, they're, you know, they don't want it to turn into a circus and little 7-minute clips on ancient aliens and stuff like that. You don't really get the full story. So this is really our opportunity for a long-form film to get everything included and to tell it the right way.
With the actual participants.
With the actual participants.
On location, and then we're going to redo the reenactments here.
Yeah.
And what studio's behind this? Do you have them?
Right now we're working with Primordic Studios in Irwin, Tennessee to shoot our teaser trailer.
There it is.
And yep, right there. We're also working with a lot of the companies around here. Our director of photography just worked on Murder Comes to Town with Discovery ID. Our assistant director worked on Fatal Attraction on Oxygen. So there's a lot of ties to East Tennessee. And like Thom said, when it got inducted in 2015, he was living in East Tennessee. So he took his polygraph here.
And he's willing to go on record too.
Yeah, he took his polygraph here. The doctor that they sent to his family to make sure, you know, psych evals and stuff like that. And also the detective are all from East Tennessee, so.
Terry, tell us what's going on with the story we just had heard a little bit ago that Thom told us. What's going on on your end with the production?
Well, you know, like I said, we just shot the teaser at Primordic Studios in Irwin, Tennessee. We plan soon to go to Sheffield, Massachusetts, go to WSBS Radio and get all the interviews. A lot of the people that called in 1969, they're very old. So this is our last chance to talk to them.
To preserve that.
Okay.
To get it right, so to speak. Because like I said, this has been covered by a lot of people, just hasn't included everything that needed to be included. In the next month, we'll be going up to Sheffield, getting those interviews. And then during the winter months, we'll be shooting the reenactments down here in Knoxville, Kingsport, Johnson City, Bristol, Irwin. And then in the spring, we'll probably go back up to Sheffield for more pickups, and then it'll be ready for release on September 1st. On its
anniversary.
2019.
50th anniversary.
Oh, is that when it occurred? Okay.
50th anniversary of the incident, September 1st, 2019.
Wow.
So, yeah. This is really why we want to do it. Like I said, it's the last time we'll get a lot of these people on tape, unfortunately, and this is going to be the first time where Thom has his hands in it and can actually make sure it doesn't get, you know, a little cheese balled up or something like that.
Sensationalized again.
Sensationalized, there you go.
Yes.
So really we want to get to the gritty truth and definitely how it affected this community. And over the 250 witnesses, it really split the town because it's a small farming town. And then for half the people to have seen this,
they were lived so far off the main beaten path.
Farmland, yeah.
Farmland, yeah. So the farmers would get up early and they would just drop their children off at our diner. So basically my entire class used to eat breakfast at our diner together. And now they're, like I said before, they're
grown up.
They have pull in town. They're very well off, you know. And so when this, I lost my father, they were close to our family. And so they're like, you know, we don't want his name to be tarnished. It's kind of how it started.
Okay.
Why, when I got the monument, my father's name was actually on the monument because it was kind of a tribute to my late father. And that's kind of how it went. It was all, even though there was a lot of turbulence and controversy back in the day, there was still a very warm local feel to support our family. And this group of children and so on, who he's going to be interviewing, never wavered. They stuck to their guns, and today, as a unit, all these people made history together, and that gets so lost.
This has been done on other genres, like on TV and all.
Discovery Channel,
Ancient
Science,
Aliens, Alien Mysteries, things like that. But they always focus, like Thom said, on the bright lights and the flash. All they want is the flash, and we're like, but there's people here that it affects.
So much
there's
more than that.
feelings here that
They were just concentrating on the sighting, not the story.
Right, exactly. And that's really not the story.
Right, the sighting's a big part, but there's so much more here that's not being included. Really shows people.
It's a lot to talk about. When I do a radio show or something, everyone wants to know what you saw. But to me, it's a much bigger piece, and it takes a long time to tell it. And that's the struggle, and that's why this is going to probably be a fairly long film, but because we have the actual participants, the radio station is still in town, WSBS Radio, with the same call letters in the same building. How rare is that?
Building,
Right, and our restaurant was still there until last year with the same name. So this town doesn't change much. The bridge is still there, the restaurant's there, the members of the family, if there's someone they've lost a relative, some of that family's still there who remembers it. So we're going to have a very powerful. My mother, who owned a restaurant's actually in Tennessee, so she's actually going to go on record for the first time as well.
Yeah. So we'll also.
Wow, where's she at in Tennessee? Around here?
Concord.
Okay, I don't even know where that is.
Near Lake, North Shore.
Okay.
It's near Knoxville.
Near Knoxville. Okay.
Knoxville,
Turkey Creek area.
Look at you talking Massachusetts, North Shore. We're in Tennessee right now.
Well, we live on North Shore, so.
That Massachusetts accent definitely comes out once in a while.
It does once in a while.
So do you need any other people cast? Where did you cast?
Yeah. We'll need plenty of casting. Right now, we probably just locked in all the main players for casting, but like I said, we will need a lot of casting, especially in the diner scenes. This community, it was the hub, it was the big diner in town. And like I said, the community would come to it, and half of them were on one side, half of them were on the other side. And for Thom's Diner to be ground zero for this community, being embattled with each other is...
Here's something else that I haven't mentioned very often. My grandmother used to be the governess for Franklin Delano Roosevelt's grandchildren in Cherry Hills, Colorado, where I grew up until I was 3 years old. So my mother always had an interest in politics. So when my father, graduated law school, she kind of pushed him into that arena. So our family's had a very political, had a lot of pull, and so being so no child left behind. My father was a really good man, and he made a lot of friends. And when he passed at 54, on the same day that this was mentioned at the UN, people looked into that, and out of respect for him, because of some of the stories that were coming out, they said, well, let's preserve this man's, credibility, or let's do the right thing for him. And the more they looked into it, the more they found, and it just blossomed from there.
This has been a fun show. Hope to see you back this time next week with another edition of A Closer Look.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.